guys, thank you so much for coming to my channel. If you have been here before, thank you for coming back. And if this is your first time, thank you for stopping by. My name is Nicole and I am a Scrum Master. On today's topic, we're going to talk about a working agreement. A working agreement is really important to have, and that's why if you guys notice in almost all of the videos that I have out there, I have been talking about a working agreement, and it's really important. That's why I kept bringing it up in almost all of my videos. And so also a lot of people have reached out to me and requested me to do this video, so I decided that I will put this video out there for you. And I hope that this video is able to help you to clear any gaps that you may have in terms of how to go about facilitating a working agreement session with your team. So what really is a working agreement? A working agreement is pretty much a document that lists out all the things that the team wants to follow through in order for them to be successful. It's just a document that lists out the team's norms, all the things that the development team member wants to follow through in order for them to be successful as a team. So really, this is not something that the Scrum Master decides for the team. This is not something that the product owner decides for the team. This is not something that one single team member decides. It's something that the entire development team members as a whole needs to come together and decide on what they want to include in their working agreement. It should be a team's collaboration, the entire team to come together and say, these are the things that we as a team want to follow through. These are our team's norms. These are what we as a team want to follow through in order for us to be successful as a team. So when you do join a new Scrum team as a Scrum Master, what you need to do is find out from the team if they already have a working agreement. However, if they don't have one already in place, I will highly recommend you to set up a session, maybe like an hour, set up a meeting for about an hour to go over, to facilitate a working agreement session with the team. I'm saying an hour because when I did my working agreement session, I had first scheduled it for 30 minutes and I realized that time was not enough. And also it depends on the size of your team. If your team is pretty big, you might maybe need a whole hour, like an entire hour, for you guys to go over the things that the team wants to list out in their working agreement. So just make sure that you set up enough time for the team. So when the team, before you actually go into the working agreement meeting, what you, the Scrum Master, should do is try to do some work, right? Do some work yourself, put some things together, and so you can present it to the team. The reason you're doing this is because a lot of the team members probably have never seen a working agreement before. Maybe they have no idea what a working agreement should look like. So it's good for you to just put something together for them. And again, whatever you're putting together doesn't mean that the team has to agree with what you have just listed. You're just putting something to present to the team so they have an idea why they're coming up with their own working agreement. Okay, so it's not a decision that is being made by the Scrum Master. So whatever you put down doesn't mean the team has to agree with what you have just listed on the working agreement. So when you do, if you do need help actually in terms of knowing what to put in the working agreement, go online, right? There's a lot of templates out there. Just go on Google and just search for a team working agreement just to see a sample, to have an idea yourself on the type of things that maybe you want to include in there. Just go online and see. There's so many options, right? There's so many options out there that you can use. So once you do schedule the meeting, make sure that you invite your entire development team members, like the developers, the QA testers, anyone that's part of your team. Make sure that you invite them to the meeting. You should definitely also include the product owner to the meeting as well. It's really important, right? So the product owner also understands all the things that the team wants to list in the working agreement, all their norms, right? So make sure you include the product owner as well. So when you do get into your working agreement meeting, the first thing that you want to do, if your team doesn't already have a team name, maybe this is a really good time for the team to come up with a name, right? With the name of the team. So they can be creative. They can come up with whatever they want to call their team. Document that in the working agreement. Whatever name the team has decided that this is their team name, just make sure that it's being documented in the working agreement. The next thing that you want to do, maybe the team should talk about or list out all the roles and the responsibilities of each of your team member, right? Write down everyone's name and what are their roles and what are they responsible for in the team. Are they a developer? Are they a QA tester? What are they? Is this a product owner? It's just so good for the entire team to know who is who, right? And also you, the Scrum Master, is really going to help you to understand who is doing what in this team. So just make sure that you list out everyone roles and responsibility in the team. The next thing that you want to maybe include in the working agreement, right, is like I said, these are all suggestions. The team don't have to agree with everything you're putting out there. You want to list out like the Jira workflow. I find this very helpful because when I joined my team doing stand up, the way the team members they were not really understanding the statuses, especially the team members that are new to Scrum. They really did not know the statuses, how to move the stories, like how the stories are supposed to be moving around, from which status to which status. So they didn't know how to really how to go about that. So I would highly recommend you to include the Jira workflow on your working agreement. Like for instance, right, from to do, the story goes into to do, it can then go into dev in progress, it can then go into QA, from QA it can go to UAT, and then from UAT it can go to done. Whatever workflow your Jira is set up, just make sure that you go on Jira or whatever tool you're using as Jira DevOps or a rally, whatever. Just see how the workflow is set up and just list that out on the working agreement so the team member understand this is how the stories are supposed to be moving in Jira. Like these are the different statuses that we currently have. It's good to really just put it out there as well. The next thing that you want to maybe list out in your working agreement or talk about it with the team members is the events, the Scrum events, right? It's really important because not all of your team members have worked in a Scrum team before. Maybe this is their first time for some of them, so it's good to list out all the events. If this team is brand new to Scrum, if they have not even started work yet, you know, if this is the time that they need to decide on when to start their sprint, this would be a good time. What day would they want to run would they want to start their sprint? What day of the week would they want to be having their sprint planning meeting? So just make sure that the team decide on when they want to start the sprint. If it's a brand new team, this would be a good time for them to decide on that. For instance, if the team says that they want to start the sprint planning every Wednesday, or if it's a 2-week sprint, if they're doing a 2-week sprint, obviously you want to document that in the working agreement that they are going to be doing a 2-week sprint. And then if they decide that they're going to be having their sprint planning every other Wednesday for that 2-week sprint, make sure that you also document in the working agreement that sprint planning or sprint is going to start every other Wednesdays. So it's going to be there for visibility, right? So everyone understand that as well. The next thing you want to do, you want to talk about all the meetings that is going to be taking place during the sprint, right? Again, if this is a new team, you want to make sure that you list out all the ceremonies that's going to be happening in the spring. But if it's a team that's already ongoing, obviously, I will still document this in the working agreement, or the meetings that is going to be happening and the days that the meetings are going to be happening as well. For instance, right, you want to talk about all your Scrum ceremonies. So let's say if your spring starts every other Wednesdays, you want to put in the working agreement that spring planning is going to be every other Wednesday. If there's a specific time the team has decided that this is when this is the time we would like to have our planning meeting, make sure it's documented in the working agreement to set any confusion so team members don't start coming and say the time doesn't work. Just make sure the team agrees on that time. Let them agree on that time, and if they do agree on a specific time, document that in your working agreement as well. This is going to help you guys a lot in your team, right? We want everybody to be aligned with what we are all doing as a team. So if they have decided that their sprint planning is going to be starting every other Wednesday, document that. Also make sure that you include all the participants. Who are the participants that are required to be in the sprint planning meeting? Also, make sure that you include the agenda in the working agreement. These are the agendas that is going to be we're going to be putting in the meeting, and then whatever you need to include in there, just make sure that the team or whatever they want to include in their working agreement, just make sure that they include that as well and it's documented. So again, the same thing you want to do for the daily stand up and the rest of the ceremonies. Just make sure that all of them are listed out there. All the participants are mentioned as well, and also if there's any agenda, just make sure that you include that as well. So once you're done with that, going over the Scrum ceremonies, the next thing that I will highly recommend that you guys go over as well in your working agreement, story pointing, right? Like techniques that the team would like to use for estimation. That's, or if they don't already have one in place. If they don't have one in place, this is a good time for you to talk to the team to decide, or for them to decide what technique they would like to use for estimating story. If they like to use the planning poco technique and the Fibonacci sequence, or if they would like to use the t-shirt sizing technique. Just make sure that they agree on what technique they would like to do. If they don't have any technique in place already, obviously you the Scrum Master should introduce what technique you're really comfortable with, that you think will be the best for the team. Go ahead and introduce that to them, and if they agree with that technique, then go ahead and document that in the working agreement as well. That, for instance, if they agree that they're going to be using the penny poker technique and the Fibonacci sequence, make sure that you document that on the working agreement, that for story estimation, the team will be using the planning poker technique and the Fibonacci sequence, or whatever technique, right? The next thing that is good to also bring up during the working agreement session, definition of ready, definition of done, right? If they don't have a definition of ready and definition of done already in place, please do highly encourage the team to define their definition of ready and their definition of done, right? Once they do, make sure that is documented as well, and so is visible to the entire team. The next thing that you want to do, actually, after you introduce the story point technique to the team, the next thing the team maybe should agree on should be maybe how big of a story how big do we want our story to be before we pull into the sprint, right? How large can a story be? So the team should agree that maybe we should only be bringing stories at least 5 points into the sprint. Whatever they agree, if they want to agree to bring an 8-point story into the sprint, that's fine, right? Whatever they agree, make sure it's documented. However, that just means that if the team is estimating story that's bigger than whatever they have said in their working agreement, they need to break down that story. For example, if they agree in the work, if they said that we should be estimating story 5 points and below, and then if the team estimated a story bigger than 5, then they need to probably break down that story. Otherwise, you can always point to them that in our agreement we said that we should not be estimating stories bigger than 5, right? It needs to be broken down. So those type of things will really help your team. It's really going to put your team in a really good place. It's going to help your team for success. So if there's any other agreement that the team would like to talk about, if there's any other thing that they would like to include in their working agreement that they have not already listed, give them that opportunity. That I just asked them, hey guys, is there any other thing that you guys would like to list out in this working agreement? For instance, the team, I just want to say that people need to be attending daily stand-up, or come to all the meetings and come to the meetings on time, or people need to be updating all the statuses, all the story in Jira before the next stand-up, those type of things. So, but let them decide on whatever they would like to include in the working agreement. Again, this is not a Scrum Master's decision. This is not the product owner's decision. This is not a decision from a single person from the team. It's a decision that's made by the entire team. These are the norms that the team would like to follow through. These are the way they want to work. So make sure that anything that they're saying, they're all agreeing and is being documented. And once the team is done going over the working agreement and everyone agrees with everything, the next thing the Scrum Master should do is ask the team how often would they like to revisit this agreement. It's really important that they revisit the agreement. Is it once every month? Is it once every quarterly? Whatever they want, just make sure that you document in the agreement that we are going to be revisiting this working agreement maybe once every quarter. The reason you're doing this is because sometimes things might change. There might be certain things that are working. Maybe we want to keep doing. If there are certain things that are not really going well with the team that they would like to take out from the agreement, it's of no value to the team. It's good to revisit the working agreement so they can make all the changes that they would like to do. And the next thing you would like to do, I recommend you to do as well, is save the working agreement in a folder that is accessible to the entire team, right? If you guys are using Confluence for documenting or SharePoint, whatever tool, even on Microsoft Teams, you can create a folder and leave it there. Just make sure that wherever this working agreement is documented, the entire team is aware and they have access to it, right? Because it's really good that the entire team has access to where the working agreement is stored. And this is also going to really help you, the Scrum Master. For instance, if you do get a new team member that joins your team, once they join your team, you set up a one-on-one meeting with them and just pull the working agreement and give and show them like, these are the team's norms, these are the agreement that the team has decided, these are the way they want to work. Just go over it, and if you have any question, you guys can now discuss it with the entire team. So this is really going to help your team for success. It's going to help avoid any confusion amongst the team, any disagreement, because this is what they have said. These are the ways that we want to work. These are the things that we are going to be following through. If someone on the team is not following the working agreement for whatever reason, just set up a meeting and go over with them and just try to find out what is going on or what's causing this behavior of them not following the working agreement, because they decide that these are the things that they would like to follow through as a team. So that's pretty much it, guys, about a working agreement. I hope this information is able to help you guys out there. Again, there's so many templates online. Just go on Google, just search for teams working agreement. You will see a lot of options, and then go and help your team. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you do have any other topic, any comments, any question, please don't forget to leave your message below. You can also email me at Nicole.agilepractitioner@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much, and I hope to see you guys soon.